28-0, 39-0, 30 knockouts, 22 knockouts. Who's the A side?
I'm the guy for sure. I'm the A side. It gotta be A side, and that's why we was going. That's why the business side was kind of, cause with him, he just didn't want to believe that I'm the big dog. When we talk about ticket sales, talk about putting butts in the seats, all that, and he didn't want to believe that. He was like, well, I did this, I won these belts, I did this. That's cool, but try to take that to the bank.
We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live, Boxingego unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Errol Spence explains pretty much what Terence Crawford wouldn't. What took so long? He said he was the A side, but Terence Bud Crawford believed it was the other way around. That's what I want to talk about right here in this video. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Best in the business here. And I can assure you it's not even close. Subscribe to the channel. Now, the clip you heard was some BTS from the All Access on Showtime, which was documenting, you know, they had cameras following EJ for this big Spence Crawford fight as he was on the Pivot podcast. And you heard Errol Spence. He was basically telling you what Terence Crawford wouldn't, the holdup in some of the past negotiations. He says, I'm the A side. And I'm just paraphrasing because if you didn't hear it, you can rewind to the beginning of this video, rewind this track, and picture me rolling. So Spence, he's basically telling you the truth, just like his nickname. He's saying, I'm the A side. So we all know in boxing what A side is. Actually, because I have all types of different people within my audience. So some people may not know what A side represents in boxing. So if you're new to boxing, let me just give you a quick synopsis. A side is basically the more popular guy. The more popular, more storied and accomplished. It's usually those types of things. It's not just accolades, because I've seen guys who are the A side and real popular in boxing and selling out. However, they don't have a belt. Like, let's say Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia brings a nice sized following. So if he were to fight a lot of guys, he could be the A side over those guys, even if that person had a belt. Or another example would be Canelo Alvarez. Payday. You want payday, I know that. Versus Dmitry Bivol. Despite Dmitry Bivol of Russia being a light heavyweight champion, Canelo is considered the A side in that matchup, even though he wasn't a champion at 175 where he fought Bivol. Canelo was the guy who had been on pay-per-view more times. He puts a lot of butts in the seats in his bigger fights. He had fought Floyd Mayweather, fought Miguel Cotto, 3 fights with Triple G. You know, these types of, actually at the point when he fought Bivol, it would have only been 2 fights with Triple G, but you guys get the point. He was the guy who, you know, has more people at the weigh-in, you know, these types of things. So that's the A side. So when it comes to that, Errol Spence Jr. is absolutely the A side. And I've definitely done videos in the past where I explored this topic. And it's funny and ironic that Terence Crawford and the Bud Buddies, they don't seem to acknowledge this. And that's exactly what Errol Spence was saying. He said he thought he was the A side and he's throwing out all these things, but try taking that to the bank. That's exactly, you heard it. That's exactly what Errol Spence said. Try taking that stuff to the bank, meaning you could say all that. And we know what these things are because Terence Crawford uses them when he's doing interviews. So clearly this is how he thinks. He'll do an interview with Kate Abdo and he'll say, I have signature wins like Ricky Burns and Ndongo. And in his mind or his belief or his values, he thinks those are signature wins. And he says stuff like, oh, I moved up more weight classes. Errol Spence has only been at the 1 weight class. I've previously been undisputed. I mean, that is true. These things are true. But when you moved up, you had to move up because you were in dormant divisions that were stale. At the time, there was really no one for you at 135. or 140. Unfortunately, that's just the era you came up in. You know, he was at 135 back in like the 2013s and 14s. So if you look at it more recently, those divisions are popping because people came after him, younger fighters that were born, let's say in the 90s or whatnot. So guys who are 20 something, they're the ones that are taking over those divisions. You have Gervonta Davis. You have Devin Haney. He's only like 25 years old. You have Keyshawn Davis, who's very young. Shakur Stevenson. These guys, majority of them outside of Tank are under 30, right? Ryan Garcia. Guys like that. So the reason you had to move up is because you didn't have compelling names of people you could fight. Even the older fighters that happen to be in the lighter divisions, like a Vasyl Lomachenko. Lomachenko, at the time, he was at probably featherweight. So there was no one for you to fight with a big name that really made sense. So you moved from 34 to 40 to give yourself a break. And in the Gamboa fight, he came in the 150s when he rehydrated. So he probably needed to move up just because it would give your body a break, like I just said. Same thing with 140. Even though you became undisputed, it was considered a weak division. You can't, all undisputeds are not considered equal. For example, if you look at a guy like Alexander Usyk, he had to join the World Boxing Super Series, went through an actual tournament and things like that to become the victor. Then he beat Tony Bellew. So he was absolutely the best at cruiserweight when he fought him. Now, Crawford, you could say he was the best at 140 when he fought, but again, it just wasn't a stacked division. Usyk had some guys that, if he were a lesser fighter, could have beat him. I never really picked anybody at 35 or 40 to beat Crawford, henceforth why he kind of needed to move up. You follow me? So I find it a bit bizarre that Terence Crawford somehow thinks these accomplishments equate to the A side in the current division. It's almost like the people who bring up Lomachenko's amateur pedigree and his the reality of it, his pro career, he has 3 losses. It should be 4 I thought he lost to Jermaine Ortiz, you know? So whatever he did in the amateurs, that's great. That's what got him here, but that has no bearing on your pro career. And that's kind of the same thing. When you enter a new division, you have to solidify yourself in the new division. It's almost like starting a new job. Whatever you put on your resume, that's your experience. So if you used to work for Microsoft, and then you used to work for Best Buy, you used to work for Apple, that's your past employment. That's your past employers. That's what got you here and whatever skills you bring to this next job. But let's say you get a job in Silicon Valley at Snapchat. What is your past job at Apple and Microsoft that has no bearing on Snapchat? Or if you work at the TikTok headquarters, their policies, their mission statements, they're separate companies, separate entities. So again, yeah, some of the skills, like if you were in sales or advertising or social media campaigns, and you know, some of the skills are transferable, but you still got to earn your stripes at the brand new job. So that's the same thing with Terence Crawford. His resume is what it is. You moved up multiple weight classes. You were undisputed at 140 pounds. No one's taking that away from you, but you're not the man over Errol Spence at 147 pounds. He got 3 belts and you got 1 belt from a champion who really shouldn't have been a champion, and that's Jeff Horn. So it's just weird. And I knew this was the holdup, and Errol Spence is all but telling you. Now, I know the Bud Buddies and the detractors, they're going to get mad like, oh, who cares? This, you know, the fight's happening already, so who cares about this past stuff? Nope, it doesn't work like that, because the whole time it was going on in real time when they were in negotiations, and Crawford went off to fight David Achu or whatever his name is, David Avalanche. The Bud Buddies were saying something different. Now, all of a sudden, when the fight's done, you see what the real problem is, and now they don't want to talk about it. And everything I told you then, notice I'm not having to change anything now. Versus Terence Crawford and his team and the Bud Buddies. They said Al Heyman didn't want it. They said that Errol Spence was ducking. Now, all of a sudden, they're saying Errol Spence is not ducking. At least Terence Crawford, that's what he said on the virtual press conference. So it's funny how people will argue tooth and nail over certain things and say, oh, that's not true in real time. And then when they're proven wrong in the future, they don't want to revisit that. And that's exactly what you're seeing from Terence Crawford. If you listen at the press conference and different interviews, people are asking him, hey, what was the holdup? What took so long for this fight to happen? What happened with the last negotiations? Why'd you fight David Avocado? They're asking him stuff like that. And Crawford always shuts it down. He shuts down the question like, oh, it doesn't really matter what happened. He said it even on the Breakfast Club with Charlemagne. Go watch the interview. I have no reason to lie. He'll always dismiss the question because he knows the answer and he knows his side was the holdup. Errol Spence has told you we had to give him extra things and extra concessions to make him comfortable in order for this fight to happen. That's why you see Errol Spence, who's willing to talk about the holdup now that the fight's happening. He just told you. Look at what he said at the beginning. Crawford thought he was the A side. I'm the A side. Now you see a major sticking point, and that was one of the major hurdles that took so long. Again, I think there's a reason why Terence Crawford doesn't want to bring up the past and doesn't want to answer these questions. Errol Spence, he's on the Pivot podcast. He has no problems answering the question. He has no problem freely giving you the information. Put it together, people. You got to put all the facts together. He has no problem telling you, hey, I had to give him extra stuff. And not one time have I heard Terence Crawford refute that. When Errol Spence is doing these interviews saying we had to give him extra millions to make this fight and to make him comfortable because I didn't want any other fight. So yet again, everything I said has been proven to be true, which is why I'm doing this follow-up video. You guys want to run from the accountability, but I always come with receipts. You're not ducking this. You gonna get it. If you said whatever you said in the past, then I'm coming. And we gonna review it and check for continuity to see who switch up. And I know some of you are like, oh, that's petty and all that. I don't care. Don't watch my channel. The bottom line is we're gonna revisit it. We're gonna review it because when I'm putting out videos in real time, there's a few detractors and they always argue the opposing side. So when you're proven wrong, just deal with that. Terence Crawford thought he was the A side. He had very poor performing pay-per-view sales. How can you be the A side? The only place where Terence Crawford has sold 10,000 tickets or more is at home, where he's from in Omaha. Errol Spence did 16,000 at the Staples Center in LA, and he's from Texas. Not to mention he's done even bigger crowds in Texas, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, things like that. So Errol's absolutely right. He's the A side. The reason I firmly believe the reason we're getting this fight is because Errol is so stubborn. He didn't want to fight Keith Thurman. He didn't want to move up without trying to do undisputed. So he stayed and stuck around and gave in to things he probably didn't have to as an A side just to make this fight happen. So you got to give a lot of credit to Errol Spence for that. He could have went another route, but he was determined to make this happen. Errol Spence also was in attendance for his fighter, Frank Martin's fight. I made a post-fight video. Make sure you poke around and check some of the other videos on my channel. I did a post-fight breakdown, a full fight breakdown, and explain how Frank Martin looked in that particular fight. So check that. But he's in Vegas and he went to his fighter's fight and he did an interview. And in that interview, he stated that he had to give up things his own team was telling him, hey, this guy doesn't want to fight. You should walk away from negotiations. And he says he just wanted to fight that bad where he just gave in to the demands despite being the A side, right? And this also coincides with there were boxing reporters, I believe Dan Rayfield, Ring Magazine, and they were saying that even in the second negotiations, one of the reports said 10 sources said that there is a problem with making this fight because one side has demands. And again, it didn't say what side in those reports, but we know what the side was. And Errol Spence is telling you what the side was. He says that he has to do a coin flip to determine who walks out last. And he's the A side. I mean, that's ridiculous. Like, imagine Billy Joe Saunders and he says, I'm not gonna fight you and give you a chance at this belt unless you let me walk out first, or we can decide it, even though I'm the B side, on a coin flip. I mean, these are unheard of things. If you fight Canelo, you're the B side, he's the A side. He's earned that, and you just got to deal with that. Unless you're Floyd Mayweather, but mostly everybody else right now at this particular space as of me recording the video versus Canelo would probably be the B side. So you wouldn't be able to dictate that to Canelo because he's an established A side. Errol Spence, 3 belts, established A side. Why on earth is Bud trying to dictate those types of terms and saying, hey, I'll take the fight only? And Errol said he was moving the goalposts. A coin flip, really? For the Ringwalk? It just shows you that Crawford is difficult to work with. I'll be happy when July 29th comes. I told you who I'm picking. I will continue to break down why I'm picking Errol Spence to win. I really think he gets it done. And I think he knows what he's up against. And he's taking these concessions and giving extra money and doing a coin flip. So he must really want this. That's all I'm gonna say. He must really want this fight to go through all that with Terence Crawford, multiple negotiations and, you know, ridiculous demands and stuff like that. He's just dead set on that. And if he's that stubborn, then I think he's gonna be a handful to deal with in the ring, because he'll probably be stubborn in the actual fight, you know? And I'm not saying that Crawford won't be stubborn, because Crawford is a stubborn guy too, but I think Errol really wants to punish and hurt Terence Crawford. We'll see how it plays out. But now you guys know this is the follow-up video. You're not ducking the smoke. You're not ducking the work. People, when I say this stuff in real time, they get mad. But now you see what the problem was in making this fight. So Errol is deserving of an apology. All the people that blamed him, like, just let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Is it fair that the A side with 3 belts and has done more in the division in which the fight is taking place has to do a coin flip in order to determine who walks out last? I mean, crazy stuff, people. We unpacked. Introducing Super Thanks. Right here on the official Boxingego YouTube. Super Thanks allows you, the viewers, to show a little bit of extra gratitude, which enables me as a full-time content creator to push out the content you need in the world of boxing. Underneath all the videos, you will see a heart with a $sign in it. You can enter any amount that you find suitable as a super thanks. A brand new interactive and colorful way to get your comments highlighted and noticed by not only myself, but other people on the YouTube platform. Super thanks, a unique and cool way to show and applaud us full-time content creators. Hopefully you guys enjoy the content. Super thanks. The future is now. The Hibernation 5s by Kenichi Bear. Hybrid gaming and lifestyle headphones. Out of the box, you can connect to any console or PC. Bluetooth ready with a low latency USB adapter, color RGB, and extreme bass mode. The Hibernation 5s adjust to you. Whether you need a gaming, travel, gym, or lifestyle headphones, the Hibernations got you covered. The new Hibernation 5s, link in the description. Customize the way you hear the world. Welcome to the nation. Are you tired of your YouTube videos not getting any views? Well, consider TubeBuddy. I've used TubeBuddy for years to scale up my YouTube channel. Now we're sitting over 200,000 subscribers. TubeBuddy is a browser extension that offers a ton of built-in productivity and time-saving services to take your channel to the next level. Use my link in the description to get started with TubeBuddy and level up your channel faster. We working.